Instinct versus mastery, personal passion versus a promise, sword versus sword. It goes without saying that round 10 of Ragnarok was amazing, one of the closest fights we've yet seen between two incredibly well written and charismatic characters. And of course, tradition dictates now it's over, it's time for us to analyse this fight and explore the beauty that is round 10 of Ragnarok, Susanoo no Mikoto versus Okita Soji. So if you find yourself entertained at any point during the video, then consider liking, subscribing and ringing that bell. Anyway, on with the video. Now before the match starts, in fact before we even know who is to fight in this round, we get some very interesting words from Okita. He is jealous of Leonidas for dying a warrior's death, for dying fighting till his heart was satisfied. This of course being set up for one of the most core ideas of this round, a fight that both Okita and Susanoo always wished for but could never attain. A chance for the two to finally achieve their wish and have the greatest fight of their lives, giving everything they possibly can. In the following scene, Brunhild is in great anguish, trying to decide on who to send next. This is a must-win for humanity after all, but she doesn't need to make the choice, as much like with Sasaki in round 3, a samurai enters as she scrolls through the Akashic records and declares he shall go. And likewise with the gods, as they decide who shall go next, Susanoo declares he shall go. Neither fighter will take no for an answer, both have decided to fight here and now of their own accord, because neither will miss the chance to have the fight of their life. Okita won't miss the chance to fight at full strength with all he has got, and Susanoo won't miss the chance to fight the mighty warrior he admired, but was barred from ever clashing blades with. Even the arena matches this idea. It is a replica of Kyoto, allowing Okita to fight to the fullest on the streets of Kyoto, much like he was unable to do in life, and allowing Susanoo to fight the samurai of Kyoto that he could only ever watch from his cave. Now as we get into the match itself, I want to take a minute to point out some cool details. Firstly is the parallels between the two fighters, both master swordsmen, both barred from fighting to their heart's content, and both police officers of their own respective realms. Okita as a captain of the Shinsengumi, and Susanoo as the god slayer who casts the wicked gods out of Takamagara. And both have stepped into the other's world, Susanoo learning and studying from the humans, wielding a sword forged by the union of the greatest smiths of the gods and humanity, and Okita almost becoming a demon with his superhuman abilities and glowing red eyes. Because in general this match has nothing to do with gods or humans, neither fighter cares all that much about winning Ragnarok, it is the fight itself that holds value to them, so god or human matters not, and by extension it matters not if a human helped forge a sword, because this match transcends races. It's not anything as simple as giving up godhood and giving up humanity, it's instead a union of the two, hence the great respect the two show to one another across this match. They are equals in this match, both in a way acting as the student and the master to one another, Okita becoming the master of the sword Susanoo started out, but also acting as a teacher to Susanoo who watched and learned from the great swordsman of humanity. This whole match is one of breaking down the barriers between what it means to be a god and what it means to be a human. However, there of course still exists contrast between the two, and I think the main one comes in their approach to the sword. For Susanoo it is a piece of art, one requiring an eternity of practice and passion to perfect. He had centuries to perfect his craft in the safety of his exile, it was something he mastered slowly. Okita on the other hand lived a short life yet still managed to master the sword, and like Susanoo he had no time nor teacher. What drove his growth was instead his natural instinct, his primal need to survive. Swordsmanship was not an art to him, it was a way to survive, to live. Susanoo devoted his life to the sword, Okita was alive because of the sword. Susanoo's Shinra Yaoyorozu is the embodiment of swordsmanship's long history, but Okita's stance has no history. Born from nothing but his own natural instinct, a way to survive and nothing more. As said, Okita surpasses Susanoo in one way, the number of times he has skirted death. Because he didn't become strong in a cave, he fought on the battlefield risking his life and getting stronger as a result. Unlike Susanoo who got stronger due to his love for the blade, Okita got strong as without strength, he would die. This is perfectly represented in how they fight. Okita doesn't love the sword itself, he'll happily throw his sword away into a foot to be precise if it gets him closer to winning, and as such surviving. Unlike Susanoo whose strength comes from his mastery of the blade, what is first emphasised about Okita is his superhuman abilities, his speed, his power, in other words, his raw strength and instinct, this being perfectly shown in their first few scuffles, a perfect technique versus pure speed and reactions. Something which once again parallels round 3, with Susanoo almost being a godly mirror of Sasaki, one who mastered the sword by learning from others and replicating their styles, and Okita being a human mirror of Poseidon, a speed-based fighter who thrusts forward with mighty power. This perhaps representing once again how man and god aren't all that different. However, unlike round 3, these two fighters start the round as pretty much equals, their first few exchanges being pretty dead even, though eventually one takes the lead. This first scuffle ending with Okita landing the first decisive strike of the match. Yet in some ways this may have fired Susanoo up even more. As we saw from moment 1 of this match, Susanoo is overjoyed, having the best time of his life, nerding out on his love for history and the sword. The larger stakes of humanity's destruction probably don't even enter his mind. He smiles and laughs, even tells Okita to wait as he checks out some sword marks in a pole. He is completely absorbed in swords and nothing else really matters to him. But why did Susanoo end up this way? Because as we see in this flashback, at first he was not a happy-go-lucky guy, far more stoic and in my opinion, bored. Born with divine strength, he defeated all enemies in a single strike. That was what swordsmanship was to him, the sword god, simply swinging your sword and killing your enemy. He cast out the evil gods as instructed, went to earth as instructed, defeated the monsters of the lands as instructed. He fulfilled his duty without a shred of a smile, as that was what he, a god, was meant to do. That was the purpose of his sword and his strength. It was, in his own words, no big deal. However, this opinion changed when Susanoo witnessed a brother protect his sister from an aggressor many times his size. In Susanoo's eyes, the result was obvious, the stronger would win, but he at least commended the boy's bravery. But what he saw next shocked him to his core. Despite the overwhelming difference in strength, the boy won, using his sword to parry and then defeat the giant foe. As the boy explained, his village was inspired by the legends of Susanoo, and so to become like him, trained with the sword, turning it from a simple tool to slice and kill, as the god saw it, into a tool that allowed the weak to overcome the strong. And inspired by this act, he declared this was not sword, this was swordsmanship, an art form. He asked the humans to teach him, being the first god to seek counsel from humanity. This once again going back to the before mentioned idea of divine and mortal becoming one. Such differences between him and this boy mattered not to him, though for the other gods, this was a bit of an issue. A god cannot be seen as equal to a human, and they certainly can't be seen asking them for help. So in order to pursue the sword, Susanoo is exiled from the heavens and forbidden from directly being taught by humans or revealing himself to them. As such, Susanoo got his wish and was able to learn and master the sword arts of the humans, but he was unable to ever test his skills against them, never able to truly enjoy the sword skills he had honed, because well, there was no one to fight. Gods aren't allowed to fight other gods, and even if they were, he couldn't go back to the heavens, and he was forbidden from fighting those on earth, so all he could do was practice on his own and dream of the day he'd be able to unleash his skills for real. And luckily for him, this came in the form of Ragnarok, his once in a lifetime chance to go all out, and against the swordsman he most wanted to fight at that. Susanoo would even overlook the annihilation of humanity for this one chance of fighting at the peak of swordsmanship. There is a certain selfishness to it, but that's the same selfishness all swordsmen carry, the desire to keep getting stronger, to unleash their greatest attack onto a foe mighty enough to take it and throw a slash back. Okita of course also being guilty of this to an extent. In his own words, burning up after narrowly avoiding the full brunt of Susanoo's Ama no Magaeshi. And so in response to Susanoo using a technique honed with the teachings of humanity, Okita takes on the appearance of a demon. And again, to keep up parallels, like how this is the first time Susanoo can unleash his full strength after centuries of training, this is the first time Okita can go all out, not burdened by his illness like he had been in life. And why does he want to fight like this? Because of a promise, one he made to Kondo, that instead of a violent murderer, he will become a samurai who fights for their beliefs. And in his mind, he cannot accomplish this without fighting to the fullest. Because in life, he could not. He wanted to be useful to Kondo, the man who took him in, and his friends, but with a body riddled by disease, he could not. In their final war, where they needed him the most, he was not there. And it was something he couldn't just power through with raw strength and instinct. Yet he still swung his blades in the hope he could still one day be of use to them. Never giving up hope he could fight alongside them, but alas, he took his last breath, ill and alone, while his companions met noble deaths fighting to the fullest. But he won't let that happen again, and so he became one with the demon inside him, because as he says, he is a samurai. with his eyes now burning blue instead of red, the colour of the Shinsengumi of the family he is now fighting for. Unlike before where he sat back and they fought to the end, this time he would let them sit back and watch as he, a true samurai, fought to honour them. And Susanoo in reply shows gratitude. Susanoo gave Okita the chance to become a true samurai, and now Okita is giving Susanoo the chance to use the swordsmanship he devoted everything to. And as the final hour of the fight commences, we get the reveal of Okita's partner, Skalmald, and the rune within her, Age of Sword. Due to her powers through Volond, Okita is forced to reach his max potential, with all the experiences he would have had as a swordsman if he had not died early, being funneled into the present. He is quite literally able to do what he couldn't because of his disease. However, even with Skalmald's help, this will be his last fight as a swordsman, and as such he must give it his all, quite literally using moves that surpass what a human body is even capable of, moves he devised when he was too ill to even wield his sword, all for this one moment. With these moves he took to the sky and soared into the heavens, transcending beyond a mere mortal. As the narration says, he transcended the speed of the gods, he transcended humanity, and pierced the boundary between gods and humans. As he breaks through Susanoo's defences and destroys his divine weapon, Susanoo was shown a real battle, looking down at his bloody hand, a perfect parallel of Okita and his tuberculosis. But through seeing Okita take those imaginary moves from paper to reality, he himself finally reached the deepest depths of his own potential, and wielded it, a sword of nothing. Okita kept forging new techniques even with no hope left for him, and now Susanoo is forging new techniques when he should have no hope. Once again the teacher and student are blurred, with Okita pushing Susanoo to reach his own peak. For Susanoo, the spirit of the sword is not the weapon itself, it is your devotion to the art, and having him wield a sword made of nothing but his own passion is the most fitting weapon a man like Susanoo could ever wield. But such a weapon is lethal to any who use it. But if the question is die and reach the peak, or live and don't, we all know which answer Susanoo would give. He raises his sword for one final attack and declares, "Let's end this." Both were happy to have fought the other, and so as he takes the hit and falls down, Okita admits that Susanoo is really strong, but he gave it all he had and so he could finally die happy as a samurai. Though, that's when he hears it, the cheers of the Shinsengumi, his family. Sure, he wanted to become a true samurai and die a warrior's death, but he'd forgotten why he wanted to be a samurai. Because of his damn family, of Kondo and the rest of the Shinsengumi. Calling back to an idea shown time and time again in the series, the greatest strength comes from fighting for others and trying to protect your family. 3-stage thrust, his sword strikes literally flew, and as a result, Susanoo is defeated. His arms shattering before he can throw a final swing. At the end of the day, Okita had a greater purpose to win. His promise to Kondo was why he swung that sword. Sure, Susanoo had passion and a deep love for the sword, but that was in service to himself. And when it comes to the sword, it is strongest when fighting for somebody else. Okita allowed Susanoo to fight for his life, a real fight on a real battlefield for the first time, and Susanoo allowed Okita to accept every aspect of himself and find passion in the sword beyond just survival. In the end, Okita fought for his friends, and Susanoo fought for himself. It was close, but that was what it came down to. It's a bit like Hades versus Qin Shi Huang. Both were strong, both had the right mindset, but one just wanted to win that little bit more. Though I must admit there is another interpretation to this fight I have considered, but personally don't subscribe to. That Susanoo's loss came due to him leaving his family behind to study the sword. Unlike Okita, who wielded the blade for his family, Susanoo left his behind to wield the sword for himself, hence Okita won because he fought for his family, whereas Susanoo lost because he did not. Again, personally not an interpretation I subscribe to, but one I thought I should mention nonetheless. If we think back to Susanoo's flashback, what amazed him was a boy picking up the sword to not protect himself, but to protect his sister. A sword wasn't for striking down enemies, it was for protecting others. In a way then, through this fight, Susanoo fights the very thing that inspired and amazed him to begin with. A guy fighting with everything they had to protect their family. He had become the very foe he watched that boy defeat, and is defeated by a human with a sword for the sake of their family, and on a grander scale, humanity as a whole. In this way, Susanoo and the gods as a whole are the overpowered monsters, and the humans are the young boys taking up weapons, aka Volond, and fighting back against them to protect their family, aka humanity, even at the risk of their own life. This round in general says a lot about the conflict of the series overall, and hammers home even harder the simple idea that the humans and the gods are not that different. If a man and god can unite to forge a sword, then why can't they coexist? The fact Okita is able to overcome the literal god of swords in a sword fight really is a testament to the strength of humanity, of the strength they can gain when fighting for somebody else. Something that's easy to miss is how many spectators from previous rounds show up in this fight. Musashi from round 3, Michelangelo from round 2, or Hokusai from round 5. This match really is the culmination of humanity's strength showcased across the series, and shows why they will win Ragnarok, as when a human has someone else to fight for and to protect, then they will never lose. And that is what Okita showcased to us, embodying the will of that boy Susanoo saw, and showing that no matter how formidable the challenge in front of them, the humans will rise to the challenge and they will win.
And if you want to support this channel even further, then perhaps pledge to my Patreon, or consider becoming a channel member so you can get your name at the end of the video, like Hikari Desu, Rinjak9696, Mr. Sputum, and Matthias Rowett. So with all that said and done, I have been Seth the Sin, the Deadly Sin of Geek, and I am signing out. Stay safe, everyone.